Hello and welcome to Eco India, a sustainability magazine that brings you ingenious solutions from India and Europe to some of the most pressing problems affecting the environment today. I'm Sanuta Raghu, coming to you from Mumbai in India. Today on the show, let's look at how an organization in the state of Telangana is ensuring a sustainable livelihood for farmers. How a Mumbai-based retired police officer is making sure the city's poor don't go hungry. And how a family in Germany is laying the groundwork for all of us to go carbon neutral. But first, to one of the most urgent problems affecting India. Agrarian distress is steadily rising in the state of Telangana, like in other regions of the country. A staggering 89% of the state's rural households that depend on agriculture as their primary source of income are in debt. One organization in the Medak district is working to change this with the help of permaculture by empowering communities to use natural alternatives instead of conventional chemical practices.
In permaculture, we need to have diversified things. Like one function, multiple benefits we need to do. Like this is the lemongrass which we are talking about. Lemongrass is the pest repellent and mosquito repellent, and we can have a nice tea out of it. I'll make tea and give it to you.
Padma Kupila is a woman who's content today. 20 years back, when she and her husband Narsana bought this land in the arid state of Telangana, it was dry and barren.
Mealybug is starting. White, the eggs. Yeah, mealybug.
Where the seeds are there, parts are
there. Yeah. Only mealybug started here. Yeah.
Strong advocates of growing one's own food, the couple built their farm plant by plant. Today, Aranya is an 11.5-acre food forest, grown completely free of fertilizers and pesticides, and driven by the philosophy of permaculture.
It's a design philosophy, like natural orientations we follow, and then risk assessment from the winds, where it is coming from, how we can arrest them, where the fire is coming from, how we can arrest them.
We work with the nature rather than against. So that you have to take into account of all life system which has an exist on planet Earth. So you have to take care of them and you have to survive very amicably, harmonious way of life.
This means every plant and organism that is part of Aranya's ecosystem is valuable and plays an integral role in its model of sustainable farming.
If you have a diversified cropping systems in your whatever the vegetables or fruits or anything, and if you can manage the soil health, I don't think so pest is a problem. So here we have not used any kind of pesticide or natural pesticide, anything. So like this marigold is there, there are so many flowers which can take care of the pest.
Looking at its success, neighboring communities were open to understanding why and how permaculture works. Farming had taken a different turn in the region in the last 10 years. Farms had transformed from growing subsistence food crops to industrial-level monocrops like maize, for example.
Maize is such a thing, they cannot consume. It's a hybrid seed and it can be fed to the chickens. Okay, so I am growing food for the chickens by losing my food security. So what kind of cropping system which the farmers are adopting? Amma bagunawa? Namaste. Manchunawa? Namaste ma. Namaste.
What this meant was that tribal farmers were facing a bleak future, one with a lack of nutrition and food security. But Padma and Narsana intervened to help with their model of sustainable farming by tackling the problem at its source and bringing in women as partners.
All the women are such a strength you cannot see. Once you start convincing that, entire family get influenced. So the woman is the key in agriculture also.
One of the first women they worked with was Samama, then a landless labourer who wasn't able to feed her children even a day's meal. I feel the farm people at Aranya are like my own father and mother. They brought me out of poverty. I'll never forget the role they played in my life. They've also been great teachers to me. I know I'll work here for the rest of my life and also help others learn about permaculture. Working with Aranya and other women in the area, Samama today has a large plot of land where she grows every kind of crop her children need for a balanced meal, using a mixture of traditional farming systems and permaculture design. For Samama and many women like her, this has meant self-reliance and less dependency on government rations.
If you can understand the philosophy behind it, if you are connected to the nature, it's very easy. When you know about the production system, how you can produce, then we don't need to bother about, we don't need to feel stress about. That is the security, that is the confidence levels is entirely different.
My biggest takeaway from Aranya's work is that empowering people at the grassroots is the basis for building a sustainable planet. Our next story underscores this point. Hunger can be debilitating, and for many in Mumbai, it could mean a loss of daily wage. Roti Bank, which means bread bank in Hindi, is making sure the city's poor have a stomach full to eat every day, with a simple yet extraordinary idea.
In a country like India, with a population of more than 1 billion, almost 200 million people go hungry every day. Against such stark numbers, where feeding every hungry stomach can go a long way, a retired police officer has been doing his bit to help feed as many people as he can in the city of Mumbai.
My mission is to cover 1 million people a year. That is at least 1 lakh a month would be my mission and target. I am very sure by end of next December, that is 2019, I would have covered 1 million mark in a year. That's my target.
Inspired by similar organizations across the world, Sivanandan's initiative, Roti Bank, which translates as Bread Bank, collects leftover food from restaurants, weddings and parties and distributes it amongst the hungry.
When I saw in the police that people will do anything for a meal, I said we must help. Even when I was Commissioner of Police, I tried to bring all the street children NGOs together and help them, because in future they will not become criminals if we look after them now, give them food, education and clean them up and things like that.
With a 12 to 14 hour operational helpline number and a fleet of pickup vans, Roti Bank ensures that the food collected is distributed within the hour. The initiative has also identified hunger pockets across the city through mapping systems so that no time is wasted.
We are one of the first NGOs to use data science and artificial intelligence in finding out the hunger pockets. We do not randomly go and distribute food. There is a team of engineering college students. We do not store our food into a refrigerator or microwave it and heat it again and give it out. We give it in such a way that as soon as it's collected, it's distributed to the needy, and we are sure that the supply chain is maintained correctly.
Since its launch in December 2017, Roti Bank has served more than 350,000 people in Mumbai. Over the next few years, it hopes to scale up operations in order to meet all local requirements before extending its reach to other parts of India.
Hunger is one of the most important reasons for crime. If we want to control crime, you have to take care of the people who are hungry. It can lead to a revolution, I'm repeating. If there are 200 million people going without food, it can lead to a revolution. It is high time the government and the other agencies come forward to help people to get basic minimum. Roti, kapada, makan. I can't do the rest of the two, but roti to de sakte hain. I am giving roti to them.
Such an inspirational story, that one. Let's now move to Germany, where a family of 5 are inspiring many by paving the way for sustainable living. Global warming is one of the biggest threats to humanity. Carbon dioxide emissions have never been so high. But Karen Bieser and her family refuse to look on helplessly and are working towards reducing their carbon footprint. Here's how they're doing it.
It's harvest time. Karen Bieser and her husband have been growing their own vegetables for over 8 months now. There's spinach, rocket, and carrots.
This carrot didn't have to be shipped halfway across the world, so it has a very low carbon footprint.
The vegetables harvested won't be enough for the whole family. They still need to buy more. But gardening is a way of reducing the family's carbon footprint. That's why Karin and her family started a small garden plot next to their apartment in Berlin. The family is taking part in a project by the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research. 100 households are trying to reduce their CO2 emissions over a period of a year. For the children, aged 3, 5, and 9, it's a new experience. The family's daily life has changed, be it gardening, shopping, or just moving around. Every day, the parents take their children to preschool and school respectively.
What are you doing? What's going on here?
They switched using the car for a bike. If Henry took the car, he would produce 3.5 kilos of CO2 every day.
I even take the bike if it's snowing or icy, so long as it's safe for the children. Let's go, girls.
The whole experiment is a test. It's not about reducing emissions by 40% at any cost. It's also about discovering why it's so difficult for people to reduce their carbon footprint and lead environmentally friendly lifestyles. Trying to save on CO2 isn't an easy task, even if the family only shops in organic stores.
We're not perfect. I tend to drink water or juice. But if the children want a soft drink, we're not always as consistent as we'd like to be.
It's about finding the right balance. The family always tries to buy fruit and vegetables that are grown in Germany, but sometimes they compromise. For example, when it comes to peppers from Spain.
I like peppers, yellow and red. I like both.
Peppers are quite healthy. There's a lot of iron in them. And because we don't eat meat, we need more vegetables in autumn and winter. A pepper from Spain isn't ideal, but better than putting salami on a pizza.
The whole family has become vegetarian. They know that a kilo of beef means 12 kilos of CO2 emissions. When starting the project, Karin and her family were already lower than the average German carbon footprint of 11 tons per person annually. They decided to set themselves a target of just 4 tons a person per year. Sunday evening is time for the weekly CO2 calculations. Now they'll figure out how much carbon dioxide was emitted through their use of electricity, transportation, and food.
Yes, not bad. 25.18 tons as a family. That's 5 tons per person.
They realized that there's quite a high potential for saving on emissions without drastically restricting their quality of life. For their holidays in Saxony, the family will still use the car because it's less carbon emitting than the train. There's still quite a way to go before they reach an even more ambitious goal, becoming a climate-neutral family. But they've made a good start.
Now, India is the third largest importer of illegally logged timber in the world. But this illegal trade is also a big problem worldwide. The question is, how can you know where the wood in your home or office is coming from? An institute in Germany seems to be solving this mystery.
It's a comfortable perch, but this rainforest in Ghana is in danger. Tropical wood is in demand. It's exported across the globe, and that means to Germany as well.
Sapele is one of the main kinds of wood that Africa exports. It's often used as a substitute for genuine mahogany. The color and properties are similar. You can use it in construction to make expensive window frames, for example, or parquet flooring. It's very widely used. It's one of the most popular kinds of African wood here right now.
The Thunen Institute of Wood Research in Hamburg has a huge collection of different species of wood, 12,000 in all. Gerald Koch tests samples of timber imported to Germany, comparing them to the Institute's collection. His job is to identify endangered species and illegal imports.
We're known as the wood detectives. We have new cases every day.
These samples are being softened up. They're sent in by government agencies, merchants, and consumers who want the detectives to find out if their wood has been properly identified, labeled, and sourced. Sometimes musical instruments are sent in. After the samples have soaked in water, fine slivers are shaved off for analysis. Gerald Koch can recognize many different species of wood by now. But to be 100% sure, he needs to look at the samples under the microscope. If a product declaration is not correct, that can be a punishable offense. Koch compares the anatomical structure of incoming samples to that of items in the Institute's collection. He says they've never failed to identify a species of wood. Tougher controls on imports in recent years mean more timber is now correctly labeled. But between 10 and 20% still comes with false declarations.
Problems are more common with wood that's been processed, engineered wood, plywood, and the product declarations on garden furniture are also often wrong. We then recommend further provenance research.
It was possible to prove that this piece of mahogany had been stolen. Bernd Degen develops the tools to do so. New samples of African mahogany have just arrived, reference material for gene tests of trees. The genetic identification of timber allows Degen and his colleagues to determine where it comes from.
What we need for genetic analysis is the raw material collected where it actually grew. These samples are part of that. Reference material for the identification of wood samples, in this case, wood from Central Africa.
DNA is isolated from bark and leaves. There are genetic differences between trees of the same species in different locations.
We create a map with our genetic analyses. We correlate the genetics and the countries of origin, if all goes well.
Then false declarations won't wash anymore. You can no longer claim a piece of wood comes from Cameroon if genetic analysis proves it comes from Ghana. A fail-safe method and a great new tool in the fight against the illegal lumber trade.
The damage is not just to the environment, but also to the economies of these countries. Their tax yield is reduced if trees are felled in an uncontrolled fashion.
The wood detectives have just one goal: to boost the sustainable management of tropical forests.
Now, sometimes all that's needed is a simple solution to trigger sustainable change, just like our next story. Rajasthan ranks among the top states in India where the occurrence of child marriage is above the national average. The Veerni project in the city of Jodhpur is empowering girls with education and skills and is already seeing a marked difference in their outlook towards life.
Dhapu is 20. 13 years ago, she was married off. Like all the young women here, she was a child bride. These days, Dhapu helps the others improve their reading and writing skills. They don't live with their husbands, but at the Veerni Institute in the state of Rajasthan. Its mission is to educate and empower girls from local villages. Dhapu has been here for several years. The girls attend classes and also receive daily meals, uniforms, books, and computer training. The boarding school equips them to lead a self-determined life. I was beautifully dressed and was walked around a fire as part of the marriage ritual. My parents married me off at a very early age because of societal pressure. But you shouldn't get married at that age. With time, I've come to understand what marriage actually means. Even though child marriage is illegal in India, approximately 1.5 million girls get married before they turn 18. Photographs remind the young women what they have been through. It's common for child marriages to take place as part of another family celebration, as a way of saving money. Despite being outlawed, child marriage is widely accepted in rural areas. At the Veerni Institute, young women are given an opportunity to improve their prospects. Completing secondary education significantly boosts their chances of getting a job later. But crucially, it also gives them self-confidence and an understanding that they can be self-reliant. These girls are all set to become doctors, engineers, police officers, teachers. Whatever they do, they will be self-reliant. They can do any work that comes their way. Girls can do all the work that boys can do. Nowadays, we have even left the boys behind. Dhapu is visiting her parents in the village she grew up in. She hasn't seen her husband since the wedding 13 years ago. In Rajasthan, it can be years before newlyweds live together. The parents decide when this happens. Dhapu's mother regrets marrying off her daughter. She says the groom is a good for nothing. Her husband is not a good choice for her. I feel bad for my daughter. I feel sorry for her. What can I do to save her? I love my daughter so much, and I'm worried that she will spend her life with an alcoholic husband. But Dhapu's father hasn't yet written off her husband. Still, he accepts that it's important for his daughter to get an education. My daughter should complete her studies first before going to her husband. Her studies are more important than anything else. Lunchtime. Dhapu is now enrolled at a college. In Rajasthan, a comparatively conservative and patriarchal state, this is a significant achievement given her background. Dhapu hopes she is a role model for other girls. When I get a job, I will teach illiterate girls who were married as children to read and write. Because they were married, they didn't get an education. Dhapu is optimistic about her future. Veerni means heroine in Hindi. Thanks to the boarding school, now Dhapu has a chance to be the heroine of her own life.
As they say, when you empower a girl, you empower the whole world. That's it for today. I hope you had many takeaways from this episode. We'll be back next week with more stories of innovations towards a sustainable future. Goodbye and have a wonderful week.